Art is alive. Welcome back, everybody. Today, I have a very special guest. He is all the way from motherfucking Virginia.
Yeah.
He's my fellow editor, brother-in-arms here at Hi Hello Labs.
Uh-huh.
I would like to welcome Dr. Kaelen Williams PhD.
By the way, I don't have a PhD and I'm not a doctor, but thank you, man. I appreciate the intro. That was really good.
Yeah, this is third time's the charm because first time we did audio in Lab 1.
Yeah.
Then we did fucking recording in the green room, which
Yeah, we're just making it happen. Just trying stuff.
So third time's the charm. Might be some repeat questions, but fuck it, we ball.
Hopefully I can remember some answers. Make something else up.
All right, so Kaelen, can you talk me through how you got started in the world of production?
Yeah, of course. So I went to school for production in college. Shout out to ODU, the Old Dirty. But I guess going back a little further, I kind of started like my senior year of high school. That was when I got my first camera. And I got my camera to kind of start messing around and making my own like short films and like little skits and stuff like that with my friends. It really just came from me watching a lot of films, and I don't know why, it was almost like a light bulb went off in my head someday. They're like, oh yeah, somebody has to actually like, write these scripts and like make these films. So, why can't I be the person to have a job like that? And yeah, it just kind of sent me down this rabbit hole of creativity and learning production and that sort of stuff. But so yeah, like I said, just went through there, got into college for film, studied at ODU, got my degree. Then while I was in school, I had a couple internships, worked with like film festivals. I got a production job now working with URL. Shout out to my guys, JB. Shout out to BC, Smack, the whole squad over there. Yeah, I've been rocking with them ever since. That's kind of how I, like, working with URL is really how I got my start, like, kind of like my first paid, like, production gigs.
I wanted to ask how that came to be. Was it just they
Yeah.
had like a show in town and you're like, hey,
Yeah,
man?
it was honestly like, it was crazy like luck thing. For those who don't know, URL is the Ultimate Rap League. It's like real like battle rap stuff, which I'm a huge fan of. I'm just a huge hip hop head, rap fan, like rap culture, that whole thing. Like I love it, bars. So I was just like going to these events, like as a fan. Like they had a few events in Richmond, where I'm from, and I would just pull up. I'd be like waiting in line out there for hours to be like front row and everything. And I had a friend with me. Shout out to my guy Terrence. He would always like go to events with me and stuff. And he kind of, I don't know how he got the hookup, but I guess he kind of had a mutual connection with one of the camera guys, working for URL at the time. And they just like hit him up out the blue one day, and they were like, "Yo, one of our camera guys flaked. If you know anybody, like, just send them my way. Like, let me know."
And you're like, I have just the person.
Yeah, exactly. So like he called my phone. It was like, "Yo, I just had something crazy happen to me. Just make sure your phone is by you in like 5 minutes." So I'm just like, all right, like I don't know, I'm just walking around campus or something, and then like 5 minutes later, like I get a call from like one of the head URL camera guys. Which again, if you're like a battle rap fan, like that's a huge thing. So for me, I was almost like freaking out. Like I was like, I don't even know what to say right now. Kind of did like an impromptu like phone interview, just making sure I knew my like camera stuff, like checking exposure and that whole thing. And I guess I passed. Did a little trial, and like 7 years later, here I am. So.
And then you sent the email to labs, and they're like, hey,
yeah,
man.
I would say labs. Oh yeah, I didn't even get to labs. So that's how I started in production. And then I was still working for URL for a few years, kind of doing some film festival stuff. Getting into a little like acting, short films, that sort of thing.
And you write as well, correct?
I do. I am a writer. That's kind of like my main thing, screenwriting, or like what I want to do. That's my preference. But yeah, and then I also just like podcasting. It was something that I did in college, and I promise this is all tying together. So it was kind of a time where I was in between jobs, and I was just looking for like, kind of what's next for me. Like I was working at the mall, but like just working retail, but obviously I knew this isn't what I want to do. Like, or else I would have just wasted 4 years of film school.
I was at fucking Home Depot.
Yeah, so I was just like, fuck it, I love podcasts. Let me see if there's any like podcast studios or anything around here. Went to Google. First thing that came up was Hi Hello Labs, and I just said fuck it. Just reached out, cold email. I think I actually called them. I think I actually called.
Carlos was like, "Oh, bud,
Yeah, of course Carlos
you
picked
want to
up.
come in for a tour?"
And yeah, Carlos picked up, and I was just like, "Hey, I don't know if you guys are like hiring or anything, but I've got some production experience. I love podcasting, and I'd love to just check it out. Maybe interview or something." Um,
And the rest has been history.
yeah, called me in for an interview, and here we are.
For those that are unaware, Kaelen and I are big wrestling fans,
Yeah.
and I promise this is going to tie in as well. If you've seen all of the crazy shit that's been happening at labs, or if you see like Nikita Lyons or just any other superstar in studio, it's all thanks to this guy. I mean, that's something I really like fuck with about you is like you just like send the email, you just say fuck it.
I appreciate that,
And
man.
it's like you're a fan, so it shows that you actually like give a shit.
Yeah.
And that pays off in the end.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
think about like Ultimate Rap Lead. That I was like you're a fan prior, and then you got the gig. And then labs, you like podcasting, you got the gig.
Yeah.
Wrestling, you got the gig.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of it is just like go after what you're passionate about. And they always try to say, when you love something, it's not work. And I mean, I kind of truly feel that way. Like I've been here almost a year now, and it's like the time has just flown by. And like to me, like when I come in, it doesn't like most of the time it doesn't feel like I'm at a job or it doesn't feel like I'm at work. Like it's still like cool to me that, we get to just work with cameras or like edit all day.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
get paid
dude,
for
such
it.
a blessing.
And yeah, like kind of it goes to a quote. I think it was Michael Rubin maybe, but it was an old like musician. Basically it was kind of like his thoughts on like destiny and kind of like what you're destined or like purpose to do. And he's like, dreams like destiny, they don't like wait for anybody. So if you don't like snatch up that opportunity or go after that moment, like it's just gonna go to somebody else.
Yeah.
Nowadays
Fucking
everybody
jump.
Yeah, people always say like, oh, everybody has a podcast or everybody's a content creator. Oh, that's everything's been done before, but like it hasn't been done by your perspective. So fuck it, just go out there, shoot it, do it, and you never know what happens. Now like you said, we got wrestlers coming in here and stuff just from me just being like, fuck it, I like wrestling, let me see what wrestlers want to podcast, and here we are.
How's that transition been between being a cam op for Ultimate Rap League to being a media editor now to producing a whole show for a wrestler? How's that? Like, how's that whole process been for you?
Honestly, jumping from cam op to editor, I don't think was as big of a transition. One, because I feel like the way that I shoot things, and a lot of this was kind of taught to me again, shout out to my mentor JB over at URL. He taught me a lot of like the camera stuff that I know. I feel like I shoot kind of thinking about the edit in mind. So kind of transitioning, like as I'm filming something, I think about like, okay, how can I cut this? How's it going to look when I cut to this angle, when I cut away from this angle, blah, blah, blah. So I feel like transitioning to an editor and kind of already having that mindset as a camera operator, it was kind of easy to like transition. I mean, there were obviously, more things I had to pick up. Editing before I got this job, honestly, it wasn't my biggest strong suit. It's something that I'd done before, but I wouldn't say it was like my biggest skill. And honestly, just diving right in and kind of being thrown into the deep end by Carlos.
Yeah, dude, I love that quote.
Yeah, I just had to figure a lot of stuff out, and it can be kind of frustrating at first because like I feel like the first week I got here, he just handed me all these shows and was like, "All right, this is you. Like, good luck. Go figure it out." And it's frustrating at first, but it's the quickest way to learn. I mean, it taught me so quickly. And so yeah, that was honestly kind of probably the biggest help in my transition, just kind of like forcing me to have to adapt quickly. As far as like transitioning from just being an editor to more of like a producer role, which is where I'm trying to do now, I think it's a lot of like trusting yourself. And I guess it goes back to like, working in things that you're passionate about. Similar to another thing they say in like screenwriting, like write what you know. Like, you're not going to write a whole script about being in like the Air Force or whatever if you've never in it, never have no interest in it, never studied it or anything like that. It's just like it's not going to work out. So for me, as far as like being passionate about these shows that I'm kind of starting to produce, it's like before I even started working at labs or kind of had the idea of being a producer, it's like if I were to produce a show, how would I want it to look? And just kind of like envisioning those things so that when the opportunity comes, like I said, you trust yourself, you know what you want, you know what you did to prepare for that moment, and then you just got to go execute. I think you also have to be not afraid of like making mistakes or, having people like hate on stuff you do or like be jealous. Just
Also,
expect that
like, don't
stuff.
be afraid to ask questions
Yeah,
because
for sure.
personally speaking, there have been times where like I feel like I know everything, but then I realize I don't know
Yeah.
everything. So always have that like air of curiosity and like just determination to grow.
Yeah, 1000% asking questions for sure. I mean, it always goes back to like, what they say, you want to be like the dumbest person in the room. Like you never want to be the smartest person in the room.
Otherwise, you're in the wrong room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, guys like JB, even now, guys like Carlos, I consider Carlos, he can be kind of wacky sometimes and do some funny stuff, but he's definitely still like a mentor to me. And kind of watching how he works and operates this place and put this all together. Like these are things that I aspire to do. So surrounding by people who share those same passions as you can rub off on you. You can always ask them questions, like you mentioned. So yeah, for sure, staying curious and staying passionate.
But yeah, I appreciate how you've always been like wanting to grow and like you just get shit done. You
Yeah,
just make it happen. And it's rubbed off on me. And it's like everyone in labs is feeding off of each other and we're growing
yeah.
bigger and bigger. And it's such a rewarding feeling. But my final question to you is what's the end goal? Where do you hope to be? What do you want?
So yeah, real quick before I get to
Yeah, do
answering
your
that
thing.
question, I just want to kind of shout you out a little bit. And the rest of the labs team, because I feel like what gives me the confidence to go after these clients and reach out to these people is you guys and the team that we
Hang on, I'm just recording this.
the team that we have here. Because like in my eyes, like I know labs is a great space. This isn't like I'm not trying to like throw shade on anybody, but I was looking at like another popular like podcasting studio the other day, and it's like a big podcast studio. I believe they're like up in New York. They get a lot of like high profile clients and stuff like that. They have like 2 studios, like 2 like labs. Whereas here, I mean, we have like 8, and that's just without even really like like not even
Yeah.
counting like the grass wall or like stuff
Or
like that.
the event
Yeah,
space.
event space. So just like knowing how great of a space we have here, how passionate everybody here is about creativity, about growing the space. Because having dope photographers like you on staff, like I see the work that you do, and like Ashley. Shout out to Ashley.
Yeah,
Like
shout out to Ashley.
when I see these brand shoots and these headshots, I'm like, why wouldn't anybody want this? Like, who can see this stuff and like the work that our team is doing and say no? So again, just want to give some spotlight to
Some
you,
shite.
some shite. Some spotlight to you and to our other team members, because I feel like you guys like really empower me and make me feel confident enough to do that stuff.
But circling back to my original question, what's the end goal?
So for me, I think for me, I've always wanted to be a multimedia, multi-hyphenate producer. To have a space like this. Like a big idol of mine is Donald Glover. Because I like the fact I remember first seeing his stand-up comedy routine when I was like in 9th grade. And as he's doing his stand-up comedy routine, he has a commercial for his album that he has coming out. He's talking about how he's acting on Community. So I'm like, the fact that I'm like, you can be a comedian and be an actor, like,
Yeah.
and make music, like the fact that there's no boundaries on any of these things. And that's just always kind of been an inspiration to me. So, I mean, I've obviously want to be a screenwriter, be a film producer. That's like my main goal, but I love podcasting. Like I can't see myself not working in podcast. Like I love music, but when I'm not listening to music, all the time I'm either listening to music or I'm just listening to a podcast. So I'd love to have a podcast, like produce a podcast studio. I love music so much, maybe even owning a record label. Like honestly,
Fuck it,
it's
shoot
kinda
for the
like
moon.
the end goal is really just me, making my place and working in mainstream media, because
Yo,
I kind of want to do it all.
Isn't it crazy that I say shoot for the moon, but as I'm thinking, it's like it's not impossible.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not like the far-fetched dream that you think of like back in high school and you're like, man, I'll never work with WWE.
yeah, I was saying, just like you mentioned earlier,
I'll
like,
never work with like all this crazy stuff and all the brands that we've been like partnering with. It's crazy.
like I said, if you asked me like a year ago if I would like actually be producing a podcast for a WWE wrestler, like I never would have believed you. And not even I haven't even been here a full year, and like just think about all the stuff that we've already accomplished together. So
Insane.
yeah, man.
So, Kaelen, dog, I want to thank you so much for your time.
Nah,
I
man.
think we fucking nailed the third one.
I hope so. I don't know if I can do this a fourth time. I don't know how like
Fifth,
each time
sixth,
it's gonna be less and less coherent.
Where can people find you?
Right now mostly just Instagram when I do all my posting, but pretty much any social media platform, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I have all those. It's I Hate Kaelen. You know, try to keep that strong branding.
We don't actually hate Kaelen.
That's what makes it funny. But yeah, mostly Instagram is where I'm most active at. So I would say I Hate Kaelen. Kaelen.
Well, appreciate you, dog.
Thank you, my man.
And to everyone out there listening, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Art is Alive. See you next time, guys.